We are live for Spend Class, and I'm just going to verify here that we have sound before we get too excited. Let's see. We are live according to this, but the iPad is not agreeing. It says we're waiting on me, so let's see. What if I go now? Thank you for bearing with me while I figure this all out. I don't want to do the whole class. Thank you for bearing with me while I figure this. We have sound. Okay, let there be sound. Welcome to Spin Class. If you've been following my journey, this is a week that something got me. It's been 3 years. In fact, the last time I got an illness or an expression, a health expression, as some friends call it, was when my dad died, and I was really sad. But it's been a lot of alchemy, a lot of change, and one of those changes was adding this class. So I just couldn't leave this class undone today. So we're going to come on. We're going to do even if it's brief, a little session. And this one's all about hanging in there. And so something that's come up for me this week is that sometimes when you've come into money and you've not been accustomed to having it, and then suddenly you do, especially if it's come in a way that it is an increment. So it's coming fast perhaps, or it's coming big, but maybe those increments between get a little tricky because you're not used to having that money, and so it kind of leaves your fingers a little faster than you expected. And so today we're going to talk about hanging in there. So I've brought for you this idea. This is my longevity gym outside of my home. I choose to continue to stay as young as possible. So whether I'm doing the official gym and shaping my body or not, there are a few things I do most days, and one of those is hanging. So I'm going to invite you to just find a place where you can hang. And if you could see my feet, they're lifted from the ground right now, and you just hang. And so periodically, I'm going to remind you, I'm going to say hang in there, and I'm going to avoid it today because my physical energy is low, but I want to demonstrate that. And luckily I have lots of experience with this because when my youngest son was born, I actually was very pregnant with him while I was teaching aerobics and training, and I taught step aerobics and water aerobics back to back. And so that was a great opportunity for me to practice guiding without having to do, because sometimes, you just can't do the abs when your belly is out to here. So we're going to go down just a little bit so we can see each other more. And so as we go through the day, I'll say, hang in there. And every time I say hang in there, I want you to grab whatever it is. If you found a space in your home, get a rope. If you don't have that, come back to this video another day and do it again, or create that today. And every time you hear hang in there, I just want you to go ahead and drop, lift those feet from the ground, right? So I'm just hanging, allowing, and you do that. You're going to do that as long as you can. I'm up to about 30 seconds that I can hang at once right now, and about 2 minutes a day. So I call this my longevity gym. Yes, this is part of financial fitness, is getting your body in shape so your mind can be clear, so your decisions can be sound. So I also have to my right, your left, my trampoline, which is a little, because rebounding is good for the lymphatic system. And then I typically bring out a yoga mat and do some stretching and move my body, because I heard the phrase, you're as young as your spine, and I believed them. So I try to keep my spine young as well. So hanging, rebounding, and stretching and mobility of the spine are 3 things that I keep in my life on a regular basis. So I want to tie that in with you with your money. And so maybe you've come into some money, maybe you've had it, and right now you're thinking, wait, how do I have all this money and I still don't feel like I have any money? Where's my cash? And so sometimes when we come into money, it might mean that our business is thriving, but just as fast as the cash is coming in, we need to send it out for the reinvestment, for the growth. And if you're an investor, you might be familiar with growth companies versus mature companies. Growth companies, you're not going to see cash back right now. You're looking for the appreciation and value of the company. And that is because over time, that company will continue to reinvest its money back into the business so that you can have growth and sustain that growth over time. Eventually, however, you kind of reach a place where there's not a lot more massive expansion that's needed, and your research and development is covered, and your expansion is covered, and you still have excess profits, which is awesome. And that's when a company comes into maturity and starts to pay dividends. I really like dividend companies because I just like to invest in income more so than a guess of appreciation. I really love income. So when you're choosing your company, you might invest in something that is income-based. But let's say you got your money and you invested in a lot of growth companies, or your company is a growth company. So all the cash flow that comes in is also going right back out the door for other things. So I want to invite you to hang in there, get your hanging on. Again, I'm just refraining because of the physical weakness in my body today. And so hang in there and tell yourself, okay, first of all, I have had success. Remember that you've had success, right? So we're going to tie this into the longevity gem. The first one is hanging in there, understanding that you don't have to hang forever. If you've created success, if you have a working system, you have a working process, if you've made revenues before or you've achieved this before, then you can do it again. Now, if you're the special person on here who has either inherited or won your increase, reach out. We'll have a special conversation for you. And surely some of these classes will be for you. But you might, and the biggest thing I find with that, people who've just suddenly inherited or won a lot of cash, is that feeling is there, like, I didn't create this, so I'm scared to spend it because how will I make more? But let's say that you created this wealth and you've created some cash flow. Then that means that you yourself can create it. So you don't have to worry about that. So are you ready for another one? Hang in there so that you can really understand, hey, through time, it's going to go. So the second part of that, and let's talk about that rebounding. When you're rebounding, you're using the energy and the momentum and the force to keep a momentum going, and it's stirring up and moving all of those lymphatic system mechanisms. I'm not a biologist, so use that as you will. And you're really moving the energy around. So if you found that you're in between cash flow and not sure what to do, and you're looking for how you can go forward, a couple of things you can do to get immediate help. You can go seek assistance from a short-term lending company. Probably the bank you already work with is the most likely factor. Some of those are going to require some credit checks. So if you have some credit issues, then it might be a little tougher. If you have good credit and good income, you should be able to get available cash right away, and reach out to our team. We'll help guide you to the right people who can help you do that. We do not do that service, but we certainly know a lot of people do. And so you can use your credit, your income, and go, and the bank can go and that is called working capital. So if you're looking for that cash flow to support what's going on in your business when you're growing a little faster than your cash is coming in, that's called working capital. You're just needing a little money to maybe pay some workers, to buy a location, to do your event, to some activities that you want to do in the business that it creates the work in the business. That's called working capital. The second thing that you might be looking for, if you truly are reinvesting all of your cash into your business, then you might be looking for an expansion loan. And there are many sources out there and ways to do that. You can go with an SBA loan if you haven't used the SBA before. And if you have good credit, again, that's easy. But what if you don't? And so there are lenders out there who will give these short-term loans. They're typically high rates. So be aware of that, and that use this, understand the cost of taking on, right? Because when you're rebounding, there's a cost also to your joints. And so you can rebound enough to make it healthy, or you could rebound so much or in a bad condition that makes it not healthy. So if you're rebounding, for example, I have a mini trampoline. It creates the automatic laxity so that my knees, my joints aren't forcing, because you can jump rope. That's great. That's a great rebounding tactic. But jumping rope is the perfect example of where too much is too much. So if you go get a loan that's a 20% interest rate and you're depending on that for a long time, or doing that over and over and over, you're literally eroding the value and the cash flow and the long-term gains of your company by 20%. And think about this. On a compounding rate, in less than 5 years, you've already lost a whole year of income if you're paying a 20% rate on your, or at least you've lost a whole year's worth of that same money. So we don't want to do that, because we definitely don't want to create compounding problems. But in the short term, expansion, working capital, when you know that cash flow is coming back in and you can cover it, sometimes you'll pay the whatever additional fees and interest. And this is where I want you to think about your cash flow in this way, because spending is important and you can't be afraid when you're in business. You've got to be able to spend and you've got to be able to do it smart. And so when you're going out to get those funds, you want to really think about what is the intention and purpose and what's the time length before I could begin to repay it, because it is a cost. And so you calculate the interest and any fees involved. And let's say that you're going to borrow $10,000 and you find out that the total cost of borrowing that money for, let's say, 18 months. Let's say you just know that it's a season where you're going to need to continue to use those funds. A line of credit is often a better way because you can pay interest only when you're actually using the funds. And then those funds are just there and available for you to tap into. Again, requires good spending habits to use things like a line of credit or loans, because you don't want to get yourself into a situation where you thought, oh, I have extra, let me spend, let me buy everybody this, drinks on me. Like all of that erodes your wealth. You don't want to do that. But to borrow money, and let's say your net cost is $1,200 over the course of 18 months to borrow $10,000. Well, then you're looking at $1,200 in cost, but what could you achieve in that 18 months because you had access to that 10,000? Was it a piece of equipment that you can rent out or get income from? Was it an employee who can generate more revenue for your company? So what is available and what is the potential benefit or gain from borrowing that you can then pay off that loan and pay back the interest and feel like you still got a net profit? If you find out that borrowing that $10,000 is not going to make you any additional funds, but only going to cost you $1,200 over the life of that loan, then it's simply a cost. And then you have to really look at the cost of what it is. And it's not an automatic no just because it's a net cost. Sometimes it's, hey, it's not about making money. This is about, if I don't file this attorney, then I'm going to be at risk. And I'm risking millions of dollars in my company because I didn't handle this little piece. So remember that it's about the cost benefit analysis when you're making that decision. So if you find yourself in a little wiggle room, hang in there, time to hang again. And just again, grab whatever you've got, hang. We're getting financially fit and physically fit all at the same time. Healthy mind, healthy heart, healthy body, and healthy wallets. All right, so the last piece I want to talk to you about, and I'm keeping this as an abbreviated class today because of my physical expressions and because last week we didn't have sound anyway, so I had to come back and do a recap of shorter one. And I would love your feedback. Do you like the exercise or is it distracting? Do you love the fact that we are calling it financial fitness? Do you like SpendClass? What would you like to know about in terms of using and affecting your money into the world and allowing your money to flow out from you and not being afraid? So is it anxiety? Is it tactics? What are the things that you want to know? You let us know and we will teach it. We are here every week now and the topics are all about you. And I want to give you an analogy of what really brought this up for me and had me thinking. Number one, I'm working with a client who is seeking funding, and we had to do this profit analysis. Is it going to benefit you and make sense for you to have this? And find out. Secondly, because I've been sick, I was lucky enough. So those of you who came into something, I was lucky enough to come into this little bottle of Aleve that someone left. I don't know, but I have a lot of traffic through my house. A lot of friends visit here in Miami. And I had this little bottle of Aleve with a few pills left in it. Not my thing to take medication, but man, I was feeling pretty bad this week and I've had fevers. This is my first day sans fever. Yay, I'm winning. I feel like as the expression moves through my body and shifts, at least it's not staying the same and stagnant. It's been different symptoms each day, it seems. So, allowing that to just move through the body. And again, that's part of that rebounding. Like movement has to happen. So let it move. I'm thrilled that the symptoms keep shifting for me because it means that I'm progressing in some kind of way, even if it feels worse today, which is, by the way, the first day I felt, let's say I'm about 60% today. I couldn't run a marathon. I couldn't do exercises if you asked me to, but I certainly can think a little bit. And I started into some work as well. And that's been fun to be able to get back into the work and understand it because my brain was fried the last couple of days, you guys. So the third part I wanted to talk to you about is the stretching. And so when I'm stretching the spine and keeping mobility and movement in the spine. So on this one, as we talk about this one, I just want you to start like don't do anything that I'm suggesting, just do you. Like get in there and move your spine, feel it. Like I can do this one with you. I'll come down a little bit and get in there and really like wiggle the spine. Like get that neck tucked and back down and wiggle your spine. Let your spine wiggle, move, start moving your body however you feel that it serves you, what feels good. Once you start to move, you'll feel a little like kink or tightness in the place. Lean into that and give your body that stretch. Spend a little time with your body every single day to allow the movement and flow. And that brings us to this third point with money, which is you've got to understand that money must flow. So if you're feeling a little nervous, maybe you don't even have a cash tightness per se, but you're terrified to spend it, then let yourself do a little exercise, wiggle, move, and think about what that means for your money. As you move more, you get more mobility. As you move more, you get the ability to move more. You get more roundness in your hips and your spine, and everything's feeling amazing. And that's how you want to do with your money. You must allow your money to flow in order to have longevity with your money. You've probably all heard of Scrooge, right? The Christmas thing. And for me, I always think of Scrooge McDuck. I don't know why. They warped me with all the cartoons, maybe as a kid. But we've all heard of this concept of Scrooge. And what Scrooge did is he created a massive amount of wealth. But then he got scared. Everyone's trying to take advantage of him. Everyone's trying to get his money. And so he hold on tight. And you're not getting my money. No, no, no. And tight, tight, tight. Hold, hold, hold. And when you start to hold on to your money, just like if you never moved your spine, like I'm not moving my spine. Are you kidding me? I worked really hard to grow into the spine. I'm not moving my spine. Someone might try to bump me if I move my spine. I'm going to be rigid. I'm going to be stiff. And as soon as you do that for long enough, what's going to happen? Your spine's not going to move anymore. Then after so long, think about the last time you sat or got in a situation where you were just kind of sitting or like stuck on an airplane. What happens when you get up? You get up and you're like, oh, everything got to wiggle, got to move because it's been stagnant for some time. If you let your money go stagnant, the same thing is going to happen. It's going to feel harder to move that money out the door. You're going to get a little less discerning about what is a good choice and what is not. Maybe you scared money does not make money, if you've heard that phrase. And so get that fluidity, that movement, that flow into your money. Be wise. Yes. Make sure that you do the analysis. And if you need help with that, that's what our team does. Actually, that's just kind of my private thing. The team really supports you on another level. But if you're talking about how to spend it, what that looks like, that's really my work with you. I have a course for it. If you want to do it on your own, you can hire me directly. If you've come into some money and you're like, look, I really need support in making sure I'm making those good choices with my money. And so I invite you to think about, am I allowing my money to flow? Am I feeling abundant and resourced and available? And do I trust it to come back to me? Here's the thing that life has taught me. And, you can read the principles all you want, but for me, they mean nothing until I see it for myself. I just need to know life must show me. And boy, have I been through some things because I demanded that life show me. But that's why I can stand in front of you and offer what I offer you today, is because I've been through the things and allowed myself to go through these things and allowed life to show me. And, so today I just wanted to point out, like, I'm going to take a step back. You can probably see it's very sunny. It's a lot of sun out today. And, while I can't do a lot of physical activity, I wanted to come outside, get in the heat, let my body sweat and detox while I am healing, because it's good for me. And I'm actually going to go out in the sun when we're finished here and just soak up a little vitamin D, allow myself to feel the life force back in me, because guess what? Life force wants to come back. And I heard this and I've tried it and I can tell you it is true. When you put out into the world from a whole place. Now, if it's like, I'm going to spend this because I need money, a lot of times that's going to fail. An opportunist often goes around searching opportunities and never quite winning. But if you look at allowing opportunities to show up, and then you from a whole place can say, oh, of course I'll step into that opportunity versus chase it, then you're going to have more possibility of doing well. So money needs to flow, and allowing that money to be wise, to be mindful, and flow out from you, you can trust that every energy we put out into the world will come back to us. And by the way, money is simply your life force energy that you have given your life force in some sort of way. Even if it was an inheritance, you gave your life force, your love to someone. That's why you inherited it. If it's a lottery winning, you guys, you gave your $2 or whatever to get that lottery ticket. So this is a piece of your life force into the universe that has come back to you. That's how you got your money. And if you're still looking for extra, or you're still looking to grow that, it's the same principle. Everything that goes out from you will return. And guys, that's not just good stuff. That's all stuff, just so you know. So that's not even a money principle. That's just a principle of life. But what I have found, and I use that with love a lot, I will give my love freely. I will give my attention, my love, my kindness freely to those people around me, because I do trust and know that it always comes back to me. And so if you understand that, then you can feel safer. Here's the caveat that I want you to understand, because a lot of people miss this. And so we give. So here, guys, here's a class. I'm teaching you how to spend your money. And then I expect that you are the ones who come and spend your money with me. It does not work that way. And I told you day one, I'm doing this class for me. I need an outlet. I love what I do. I'm a teacher. I needed to get this information out into the world, and I don't like marketing and sales and don't even know how to do it anyway. And every time I think I'm going to learn it, I just don't want to. And so I've decided that what works for me is to just offer a class and give freely. But what I understand about energy is that as I give this energy into this space, and you are accepting my gift of the Spend class, then there's an energy in the world, in the universe, that is collected in my favor that must come back to me. And here's the piece I wanted you to understand. It usually and often does not come from the same source to which you gave it. I'm going to tell you that again in another way. Usually wherever you give the love, give the money, give the energy is not the same source that will give it back. Let's talk about why. Well, a lot of times where you gave it, it was to achieve a thing that they could do for you. And they do the thing, and yes, they give you back that exchange. But because you give your life force, then maybe someone who receives this doesn't have the ability to hire you, or maybe you're listening and you're like, oh, that's great tips. That's all I needed. You don't need to hire me because you got it already. And if that's the case, then you're not going to be the one to hire me, but you might share the video, and that video might go to another person, and then someone goes, oh my gosh, I really need help. And then that person comes and says, please, can you help me? And this is a very private one-on-one service. I don't do testimonials. I don't do anything for that service, primarily because it's private information. I'm talking about your money and how you spend it. And a lot of people don't really want to talk about the fact that they need help spending their money, even though everyone does. So, but my point is, as we give and as we move and allow money to move, we get the flexibility, we get the mobility, and it doesn't have to always come back from the same source, but it will come. And I've tested this with love. I've tested this with money. I've tested this with energy. I've tested this with people. I've tested this with having a home for people that to land in Miami when they come by and say, hey, Crystal, I'm in town. And I say, hey, I have a spot for you. That happens for me all over the world too. I'll say, hey, I'm in your city. Hey, I have a spot for you. And that reciprocal nature, it's not even the same people. Some, the friends I will see in one place and stay with have never maybe been to my home, or the friends who've been to my home, maybe I've never been to theirs. And so this reciprocation isn't direct and linear, is what I want you to understand. So hang in there. If you got one more hang in you, we're going to wrap it up soon. Hang in there. If you find yourself in that discrepancy between the cash that's flowing in and what you thought it would be, or you made a couple of bad choices, no choices are bad. You made a couple of choices that did not serve your overall benefit, and now you're coming back from that while you wait on the next cash flow to come, then give yourself a break. Hang in there. Breathe. Do a little rebounding. Find out where the funding sources might be that you could bridge that gap. Can I add one more tip here that I did not say? and this is personal experience tip, don't use your personal resources. Like if you are growing a business and you're passionate about that business and you've already done your initial investment into that business and you have your personal plan of how you're going to be okay, because there's your business and its longevity, and then there's you and your life. And don't give up all of the ingredients of your own life to go after a business. I know that's popular in the industry and everybody's like, yeah, you gave away everything to do your business. You're amazing. I don't know, you burned all the bridges. Yeah, but when you burn all the bridges, there's no bridge to cross if you need help. Don't burn the bridges. Like, just walk across them and trust yourself that you don't need to walk back them. But because the bridge is there, you can say, hey, anybody else want to come over here? I have something good. So don't burn the bridges. Leave the path for others to follow. Just maybe put a one-way sign on your bridge and don't go back. And just, maybe send a line. Hey, everybody, come on over. But really, don't use your personal resources to save, and I say this word with intention, to save your business. If your business cannot produce on its own, if it doesn't really have that, and you're guessing and grasping at straws and using your personal resources to hire a bunch of people who could maybe do what you can't, I'm going to tell you, it usually doesn't work. And then you're left without. So I've had a big crash. Many of you have probably heard that before. It was several years ago now. But I did have a crash in my life, and that came because I had way more passion than wisdom, and I had a lot of wisdom. Just the passion for my business and what I was doing so overrode my wisdom that I understood this wasn't, I've studied money since I was a child and officially in college since 19. So I knew these things. I just acted differently. So the last thing I'm going to leave you with is, if you've made a few mistakes and you found yourself in a little cash crunch when you're typically used to having money now, don't judge it. Let it be. Let it relax, right? Just like I found myself in a bottle of Aleve. It was like, yay, but there were only a few pills, and then I used them, and then it was like, oh no, I used them all. What will I do now? And as it ran out, I found myself assessing if I was going to need more. I chose, because it's not my typical to take medication, to spend the last day just winging it because I feel well enough to not medicate today. But you know what? There's a store down the road, and I already calculated the costs, and Amazon won't bring it to me unless quickly, at least, unless I get like 150 pills, and I needed like 2. So I canceled that idea. Was not gonna take my fevered self out into the market to get it. So I just chose to ride it out. So you can ride it out. You can go rebound and get some help. You can get some mobility and movement. You can call people up who maybe owe you money. You can get creative with some things like, hey, you bought our service. We're going to give you a 10% discount if you pay in full today. So there are a lot of ways that you can go and reconfigure some things if you got yourself in a bind. But most importantly, hang in there, keep going, and keep the money flowing. Until next time, this is Spin Class. Let me know what else you want to hear about, and I'll be glad to share. See you next time.